make them unhappy as an adult. That's really what it comes down to. And I think you want to say, we want to optimize for people's long-term happiness. But that means like making sure, like I said, that there are no irreversible changes during when a kid has an identity crisis, which every kid has, and that's totally cool. And so my opinion is we should just tell kids when they're going through puberty and an identity crisis, that's totally normal, and don't get too stressed about it. And things will settle out how they settle out, and that's the right thing to do.
Hello, thank you very much, Mr. Elon Musk. My name is Lenka White. I'm a legal immigrant from the Czech Republic. We are all very grateful for X. I think it's the only platform where we can find the truth, and not only here in the United States, but in places like Europe. My question is, what is your vision on the future of the media under Harris versus under Trump, how it would look like, and can the legacy media still earn the trust back, and what would happen to X, of course? Thank you so much.
Sure. Well, no, it's a great question, because I think what we'll see is a lot of censorship under sort of the Kamala regime. Kamala is really she's just a puppet, frankly. I mean, if the teleprompter breaks, she doesn't know what to say. So I just call it the machine, the kind of big government machine, essentially. And you sort of have a face on the big government machine, and when the Biden puppet was not working out, they sort of got a new puppet. But it's still the same machine, obviously. And it's extremely undemocratic what was done. It's bizarre and hypocritical to claim that Trump is somehow a danger to democracy when what happened with Biden being removed as the candidate was incredibly undemocratic. Yeah. So it doesn't make sense. But there's clearly a strong push for censorship under the guise of fighting disinformation. But really, disinformation is a propaganda word. It's not well, who's going to decide what's disinformation? The government? That's crazy, So that's yeah. So I think we'll see. This is like a very. This is why we have this petition in support of freedom of speech and right to bear arms. Is that it's under siege. It's being attacked. But really, we should have the free marketplace of ideas. People can propose an idea. They can, the people can discuss an idea, and they can make a statement. People can rebut that. You can have, this sort of, the people can decide. And I think it's far better for information to sort of bubble up from the voice of the people than to be decided by a handful of editors-in-chiefs of newspapers. That's, yeah. I mean, the sort of, the biggest point of manipulation that occurs in the media is not when the media says something that's false or misleading, but because they do that, but their choice of narrative. What are they going to talk about? Is that's by choosing to focus on one thing and not focus on another thing, that they're sort of steering what information the public receives. Whereas I think the right thing is that the narratives that are important should be the narratives that the people as a whole think are important, not what a few media oligarchs think is important. So, yeah. But they sure like controlling information. So I think if if the Kamala machine wins, then we'll see, I think, severe censorship is what's going to happen. And that's why I think this is the last election. Yeah.
Thanks to you, Kamala is not going to win. I'm Chet. My name is Chet Byler. I'm from right here in central Pennsylvania, and I don't think that was an overstatement. Thanks to you, Kamala will not win. I have two questions regarding the election itself and what you believe can be done to create not only a victory, but a strong victory.
Yes.
I'm now convinced that, again, thanks to you, we're going to sweep the 7 states that we must win. But I also hope we could pick up New Hampshire, New Jersey, and Virginia. So I wonder what your thoughts are as to how decisive the victory could be. And then number 2, as was referenced earlier, we and all of America is very enthused about you working with Donald Trump to make our government appropriately smaller and more effective. Yes. So, because that message is so compelling, I wonder if your super PAC could be a little more clear about that point as it relates to you affecting that upgrade to this great country.
Certainly, I'm happy to clarify that. I think a lot of the things I say, I feel like I'm just stating the obvious, but sometimes the obvious isn't what happens, or is that if America is not strong, if the West is not strong, then nothing else matters. The companies that I run, they don't matter. Basically, if America is the central pole holding up the tent that is Western civilization, and if that pole fails, nothing else matters. So nothing else matters. So I've tried to encourage a lot of people in business and technology to say, like, hey, you just got to think long term. You don't even need to be altruistic. You just got to think long term and say, if America fails, what good is your business? It doesn't matter. So America must be strong, and the central pole that holds up the tent of Western civilization must be firm as an oak. So.
Hi, Elon. My name is Joselle, and thank you for saving free speech. My question is, what would you expect to see when you head the Government Efficiency Department? What are your strategies and priorities to curb government spending?
Well, I've had some exposure to government spending because, SpaceX does have a lot of government contracts. There's a lot of work for NASA and for DoD, Intel, and whatnot. And so I've actually seen just the level of waste that happens. And if you talk to people in the government, they actually agree. Yes, this is very wasteful. Why don't we do something about it? But really, in order to do something about it, it has to be a mandate from the top. And if the president is, if we have a great president like Donald Trump, who is willing to make major changes, and it's difficult because the system will fight you. The system is not going to be like, oh yeah, no, totally, we're totally happy being smaller. that will not be, the sort of antibody reaction of the system will be quite severe. I don't think it's going to be, they're not going to, like it, basically. But you have to have that mandate from the president. And we need a real president, not a puppet, The thing that scares the system, that scares the machine, is that Donald Trump is not a puppet. He's a real person, and he's not beholden to anyone. And that's why you see sort of, that they're trying to kill him, And you know, I mentioned as a joke, I meant it as a joke, that no one's even bothering to try to kill Kamala. You know, because there's no point. There's no point, is what just get another puppet, you know. So I'm not suggesting someone should try to kill her. It's pointless. But I'm just saying, I'm just making an observation. Nobody's bothered. Why is that? Because it doesn't matter. Yeah. Assassinating a puppet is pointless. So, yeah.
Hi, Elon. I'm Chadwick from Westchester, Pennsylvania. And I think more people are voting for Trump than ever before. It's historically been Democratic. I wear my Trump hat and walking around, people come up to me all the time, all races, all sexes, and they're like, cheers, let's go.
Let's
I
go.
was just like, let's go.
Yeah.
MAGA.
Exactly.
All right, so.
MAGA, loud and proud. Let's go.
Yeah.
I encourage people to put Trump ban signs on their lawn and wear MAGA merch. Because a lot of it is like people, you know, a lot of people like they actually would like to support Donald Trump, but they aren't sure if anyone around them does too. And a lot of people, so you got to sort of, you know, if you sort of kind of plant the flag, then people are like, yeah, you know, I see other people are doing it, then maybe I will too. So,
100%.
yeah, thank you for doing what you're doing.
100%. Thank you for what you're doing. Thank you for standing up for Trump and putting your voice out there, because it's really important. See in your face, the richest person in the world, that's you. So thank you for that.
Yeah. I mean, I built some companies that do a lot of useful things, and as a result, the stock's worth a lot. So that's kind of what happens. It's like, you know, but in terms of personal expenditures, I do not live a particularly, you know, I don't have like a yachts or islands or anything like that. I just work, you know. So.
Good evening, Elon. My name is Jared. It's a pleasure and honor to meet you here in Pennsylvania.
And it's an honor and pleasure to meet all you guys.
Yeah.
You guys rock. I mean, this is fire. I mean, seeing the level of enthusiasm is just. I mean, this is firing me up big time. This is awesome. Yeah.
Me too. USA.
USA, absolutely.
I have a two-part question. Part A, okay. I admire your authenticity as well as Donald Trump and truly wanting to make America great again, giving up whatever you need to just do the right thing, even if it's unpopular.
Yeah.
With all the government spending that you keep talking about on X, do you believe that in combination with the Department of Government Efficiency, with Donald Trump's policies, do you think we can reduce the U.S. national debt that's currently at under $36 trillion? And part B, is that after you do it?
We have to. Yeah. Like, if we don't do something about the debt, it's going to, like, this is like, for some reason, you know, just the legacy mainstream media just ignores the fact that America is going bankrupt like crazy. It's like at a rate that is unprecedented. And the reality is that all government spending is taxation. So people I think, well, there's government spending and taxation are somehow separate, but they're not. All government spending is taxation because the deficit is what results in inflation. And inflation is a de facto tax because it causes all prices to rise and makes people trying to just live their lives have a lot of difficulty. But inflation throughout history has been used as a pernicious tax because it's like it's 1 degree removed, so people don't feel it directly. They sort of and then the politicians will try to blame it on something else, but it's all about government spending. Government spending is what drives inflation. So the key is we've got to reduce the government spending, and if we don't, we're going to go bankrupt as a country. End of story. Just like a person. You know, if a person spends beyond their means, they go bankrupt. And we're spending beyond our means, and we're spending on like silly stuff that doesn't actually benefit the public.
Correct.
Yeah.
And part two to that, I believe you're going to do that with Donald Trump. I'm just telling you that it's not if, it's when, because I am confident you and Donald Trump are going to truly make America great again.
Well, thank you, but I do want to caution against complacency is the only thing.
Correct.
So it's like we just need to be super hardcore about getting every possible vote.
Confidence, you have not complacency.
Yes, exactly. We want to be confident, but not complacent.
Correct.
And so that's why it's like we've got to just be total evangelists about the voting.
Yep.
And really every vote counts, and just make sure everyone you know is registered. The deadline for registration in Pennsylvania is
Monday.
Midnight Monday. Like you can register online. It's super easy. But like hound everyone you know to get registered, because after midnight on Monday, you can't. It's no good.
And this is a silly question, but when you cut the government spending and you have a stack of all these deregulations, can you live stream on X and use not a flamethrower and burn that into the ground?
Yeah. Great idea. Yeah. I think a bonfire of nonsense regulations would be epic. Yeah. And you know, sometimes people are concerned, like, well, what if there's some regulation that's actually really important, and we get rid of that, and say, well, you know what? We'll put it right back. Problem solved. So, all right.
Well, Mr. Musk, thank you for speaking directly with the voters of the United States. It's a pretty great view.
Yeah, absolutely.
Removing yourself from the equation, what does it say about the Biden-Harris administration and the would-be Harris administration that that they haven't worked with such great American companies such as SpaceX, Tesla, and then even speak out against X?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty weird. You know, yeah, because it was kind of a surprise, because it's like, you know, Biden, you know, for example, had that like electric vehicle summit at the White House 6 months after getting inaugurated, and specifically excluded Tesla, even though Tesla makes more electric cars than ever. Yeah, it was not cool. And then credited GM with driving the electric vehicle revolution, and that was the second event. And then in that quarter, GM shipped 26 electric cars, and Tesla shipped 300,000. So I'm like, and you know, Tesla's at this point about 140,000 people. It's like there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears from 140,000 people working hard to make great electric cars. You know, to be sort of cold-shouldered like that for no reason, it's like, what's the deal? You know, that was wrong. So, yeah, and then there was like that crazy thing where SpaceX competed for the Rural Broadband Initiative, which, and by the way, I'm actually generally against subsidies and incentives. You know, like we should let taxpayers keep their money, is my opinion. But they had this like $42 billion thing, and we competed and we won, and we would have actually been able to supply a lot of Starlink terminals to the states that were affected by the hurricanes, and they revoked the award. It's messed up. Like, why? And then to date, that $42 billion program, total number of citizens that have received broadband from that $42 billion allocation is 0. Now that's, if you want to see the $42 billion for 0, I would call that waste. Yeah, that's waste. That is not a good use of money. You know, so there was also a big government initiative, I think $7 billion, something like that, for a nationwide network of electric superchargers. And I think they had made like 10. And I'm like, this is the most egregious waste of money. And there's so many situations like that. So, you know, it just goes to like bureaucrats and consultants, and nothing gets done. And it's wasting your money, which is crazy. So what I'm saying is like there's the opportunity to reduce government waste is actually, I think, easy because there's so much of it. You know, it's not like they just don't care about your money, which is messed up. And so I think the Department of Government Efficiency is going to face a target-rich environment for reducing cost.
Hi, Elon. I've been waiting years for you to join the MAGA movement, so we're so glad you did.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, you keep repeating that most of these things we believe in are common sense, and I really feel like they are.
Yeah.
Do you have any woke friends, and how do you deal with them?
Well, I mean, I have been red-pilling my friends like crazy lately. So I've fewer and fewer woke friends. At least they're still friends, but they're not woke. So, you know, I think where the sort of, the sort of good interpretation of the woke movement is that we want to have empathy for our fellow human beings. And of course we want to have empathy for our fellow humans. I strongly believe we should care about humanity and we should care about the future. But we need to have empathy that is deep, not shallow. Shallow empathy is caring about criminals, but deep empathy is caring about the victims of the criminals. And so, why do we have, repeat violent offenders released on the streets, often with no bail? It's crazy. And they prey upon people, innocent people, and then our streets are not safe. And how can America be the greatest country in the world and we don't even have safe streets? This is so crazy. I was talking to my mom and she was saying, like, just this year, like three of her friends have been assaulted in New York. And I said, well, was anyone arrested? No. They didn't even try. We can't have this. People deserve to have safe cities and secure borders and the basic stuff like that. Yeah. So I think it's. I do feel that there's a shifting of shifting of perception, and I think I hope I'm not being too optimistic, but so I'm a naturally optimistic person, obviously, but I do feel as though that there's a shift in the national mindset, and a shift to more to just common sense and not believing everything the media tells you. And I think actually in the U.S. people are starting to realize that the legacy media is just a propaganda machine, and in Europe they still believe the news. So we got to work on Europe. They still think the news is real. But here, thanks to X and just people being, I think, maybe a bit more aware and having an actual free speech constitutional amendment has helped Americans, understand what is actually real. And I mean, I do find it remarkable, like just how sort of coordinated the legacy media is. In their talking points. It's absurd. And kudos to those who put together the compilations of where all of the talking heads will say the same thing, word for word. Yeah, and they'll say the exact same thing, and but I mean, I think the propaganda is not even good, frankly. It's not even entertaining. So a week before the Biden-Trump debate, every media organization was saying that Biden's sharp as a tack. It's the exact same words: sharp as a tack, over and over again. Then it became obvious to the public that he was indeed not as sharp as a tack. But then immediately the legacy media pivoted to knifing Biden and anointing a successor. So we see this over and over again, and So anyway, but that's why we need to have the voice of the people, and that's why I felt it was necessary to acquire Twitter and the whole point of acquiring Twitter was to restore the voice of the people. So. And it's important to note that, while the far left activists that used to control Twitter obviously did extreme censorship of voices on the right, there has been no censorship of voices on the left. They suspended a sitting president. Twitter suspended a sitting president, which is insane. But there's been no suspension or censorship or shadow banning or anything of anyone on the left. So, it's a level playing field. But I think that the reason that the sort of far left activists want unanimity in all social media platforms and in all legacy media is that their ideas do not stand the light of day. That is the reason. They actually don't stand up. And so unless everyone is parroting the same thing, their ideas will fail. So.
Hello, Mr. Musk. My name is Zion Thomas, and I was gonna ask for $1 million, but my parents told me to keep it professional. So.
Well, it's actually still possible that you may win that in the future. So.
But yeah, so you taking over Twitter was awesome. I want to know what other radical ideas you have to save our nation while working with Trump.
Yeah. Well, I try to be as literal as possible. So the values stated on the Ad America, the America PAC website and X account, I try to be just as straightforward and literal as possible. So that's why it's sort of safe cities, secure borders, sensible spending, protect the Constitution, especially the right to free speech. And these are all, like I said, things that seem very obvious and frankly normal, but they're not being done. And they're in severe danger if the Kamala machine wins. So.
Hi, I'm Nikki, and I've been working with voter registration, and a lot of people are concerned about the escalation in the U.S. military in Israel because there's over 100 troops there on land now. What do you think of this idea? A boring company offering to build an island off the coast of Israel and call it Palestine. They can finally have their nation state like Cyprus. It's been done in China, Dubai, and the Philippines, and we can finally end these endless wars. Could there be enough rubble in Gaza to do it? Thank you.
Well, Gaza is a thorny problem indeed. The Middle East has been an area of contention, for thousands of years. I would say that I do not know the solution to that difficult situation there. I'm not sure there is. I'm not sure there is a good solution. There may be, but I think we need to make sure that America is solid. I'm like, let's just make sure America is strong. And I do think we interfere too much in what other countries do. And a lot of our attempts at regime change, in fact, the success of the State Department in achieving regime change is terrible. So there's all this effort spent, all this money spent trying to affect regime change in various countries, but failed in Cuba, failed in Iran, failed in North Korea, failed in Russia. Where were the successes? But a lot of people died, and a lot of money was spent, but what good has come of it? So I think we should interfere with other countries a lot less.
Hi, Elon. My name's Luke. I'm a local liberty lover who lives just across the river, actually. I find the idea that basically everything that we care about is dependent on a single federal election to, for lack of a better word, be unacceptable. So what I and some colleagues of mine have talked about is decentralization and localism, specifically nullification at the state and local level of the federal Leviathan.
Yeah.
At the state level, the 10th Amendment Center has done great work. The basis of nullification is the 10th Amendment, the idea that no powers. Anyway.
I mean, I agree the federal government should get off people's backs.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And do you believe that nullification is a viable path forward to getting that done?
Well, I can't speak to whether that is legally, would legally stand up or not. I mean, but I think if there's an executive branch, and we also need to, try to win the Senate and the House, but if there's, a consensus that the federal government should do less and restore power to the states and to the communities, which I think should be the case, then I think we can make that happen. Yeah.
Hi, Elon. My name is Edward, and one of the really great things about going to these rallies are the people that you meet. Tuesday at the J.D. Vance rally, I spoke to some young students, and they wanted to be healthcare professionals. And the hardest thing for them to deal with was the financial obligations of doing it, trying to get an apartment and everything else. And I mean, I went to Germany, and college is free over there. So there's no one in the world that can tell me that America can't do it better. Well, can you help those Rileys of the world out, please?
Well, I think that there are a lot of issues with college education. It's gotten very expensive because the administrative portion of colleges and universities has grown dramatically compared to the educational portion. So if you say, like, how much is actually spent on teaching people? Very little. So I think that you've got these sort of administrative groups that far outnumber the actual number of professors, and like there isn't actually a need for college to be so expensive. It should be far less expensive, but the sort of bureaucratic creep and the administrative burden have grown dramatically over time, and that is what has caused college to be so expensive. It doesn't make any sense. So, yeah. But there is, I mean, if we do sort of make college free, we have to be careful about that because then it's open season for wasteful spending at universities. And like then, however bad it is now, it's going to be even worse in the future. I think we need new universities to compete with the existing ones. Because what actually matters is how good is your education, not how much was spent on administrative BS, So. I also think that like the value of a college education is somewhat overweighted, and I think it's too many people actually spend 4 years, accumulate a ton of debt, and then often don't have useful skills that they can apply afterwards. And I think I have a lot of respect for people who work with their hands, and we need electricians and plumbers and carpenters, and that's a lot more important than having incremental political science majors. I think, So I think we should not have this idea that to be successful, you need to have a 4-year college. That is simply not true.
Hello, Elon. My name is Beam. It's a pleasure to meet you. My question is, as we near the election, I know you're covering a lot of ground, going to battleground states. How important do you think ad buys will be this election? Because in 2020, Mike Bloomberg, we know, spent a vast amount of money trying to get Biden into the White House. So are you looking into that? And yeah, that's my question.
Well, actually, I'm not sure. I mean, the amount of money spent on advertising in the battleground states is truly staggering. And in fact, the Democrats are outspending Republicans dramatically. Depending on how you count it, I think it's like 2 or 3 times more money is being spent by Democrats than Republicans. And in addition, they have the legacy media on this side, and they have a whole bunch of Hollywood celebrities on this side. So it's remarkable that this election is in contention at all, given that they have really, all that on their side. But I guess you got to reach people with a message somehow. So I think probably we do need to do more advertising, just so that people hear the message. But in my opinion, the thing that's actually most important is getting friends, family, acquaintances, anyone you run into, to register to vote and then to actually vote. So and this election could be decided by 1,000 people, 100 people. It could be a very tiny margin. So every incremental person makes a difference. And I've seen some pretty wild numbers where and I think even right now, there's a lot of people that have requested, a lot of Republicans that have requested absentee ballots, but they have not mailed them in. I'm like, guys, mail it in. Come on. Just mail in your ballot. You can do it. You have it in your house. Mail it in. Now would be a good time. And if you're worried about the mail, you can bring it in person. So, yeah. I think it's very important to encourage people to vote. Like I said, I'm really emphasizing this registration point because we've only got a couple days left for registration. So that's why it's the top priority is get people registered before Monday night, and then make sure they vote. And I would recommend voting early. And then you can check to see if your vote's been received. I think there should be a lot more Republicans voting early. Yeah.
Hi, Mr. Musk. It's a pleasure to be able to speak to you. Thank you so much for pushing the world forward in every industry, and I'm sure you'll be doing the same now in politics. So my question is, given the recent hacking of Donald Trump, how important do you think it is for the tech industry and government to back platforms that prioritize privacy and secure communications, such as Signal? And do you see an opportunity for your companies to partner with this platform or to better protect user data or even safeguard government communications?
Yeah. I mean, there's always this debate between privacy and security, but I think the bias should be towards privacy. I think we should not trust the government, really, and we just shouldn't. So, and I'd say even if I'm in the government, don't trust the government. Like, that's it's just we've got to protect the privacy of citizens and make sure that people really have their liberty and they're not being spied on or manipulated. So yeah. So I think we need to make sure that there are not like backdoors and weird things and that where the government can spy on and potentially take action against people. Yeah.
Hey Elon, my name's Ron Blauk. I'm from Harrisburg. Before I ask my election question, I just have to tell you that I accidentally caught the launch and catch of both sections of Starship on live, and it was breathtaking, which I know everyone in here knows, but I want you to be acknowledged for the level of inspiration that you're creating worldwide. I was cheering in my office, like watching this thing go down, and so thank you for that.
Yeah, you're most welcome. I mean, I think it certainly inspired me, and that's a testament to the incredible work by the SpaceX team. Very talented, super hardworking team, and the making rockets fully and rapidly reusable is really what's going to open up space for humanity and enable us to have a base on the moon and build a city on Mars and be a spacefaring civilization. So a lot of people don't realize the difference between like an expendable rocket and a reusable rocket is like 10,000%. It's literally at least. You can think of it just the difference between what does it cost to fill up a car versus buy a car. It's the same difference for rockets. If a new rocket is needed every flight, that's super expensive and difficult. But if you only have to refill the rocket, it's dramatically cheaper, just like it is for a car or an airplane.
Understood. Pulling that off and doing the catch and the landing in the ocean was just so stellar.
Yeah.
All right, so my question is on election night 2020, I sat down to watch the returns and I watched them steal the election. All right, I saw it live, watched it all night, okay? If you were watching it then, you knew at 9 o'clock when Fox declared Arizona that it was going down, and that was the moment, okay. But even worse than that was over the next months watching the courts and the shenanigans in the courts and the lack of good representation that Trump had and just nothing happening because there was obviously a problem. Nothing seemed to be happening in the courts at all. And between that day and now, it doesn't look like anything has changed. And so we're about to I think the votes matter, but the count is what matters. And if the courts are corrupted, we're not going to get anywhere. And so are you participating in that? It seems as though you're aware of that. How can you help solve that issue so that we don't have that problem again?
Yeah. Well, I mean, if the margin of victory is high enough, then I think it can exceed any sort of cheating that may take place. So we've got to aim for just a massive margin. That's the key. It's really aim for a margin that it is impossible to have any shenanigans. But on the X platform, I certainly would invite people to, if there's any voting issues, if people think there's a fraud, then post the images, post the videos, post the evidence, and let's shine a bright light on. And the brighter the light, the harder it will be to cheat.
Hi, Elon. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance. Thank you for the work you're doing for humanity. There are a lot of changes happening in our world right now, a lot of changes happening in our own country, and these changes are being perceived as chaos. But I always say that if it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience peace. If it wasn't for chaos, we wouldn't be able to experience growth and evolution. And with AI being the new kid on the block and advancing at an incredible pace, I guess my question is, how do you foresee the election of President Donald Trump influencing technological advancements and societal transformation?
Well, I think reducing this sort of strangulation by overregulation is a super big deal. The rocket that we were just talking about, it was sitting on the launch pad for 2 months waiting for paperwork to be processed. And it's just insane that the SpaceX team can build a giant rocket faster than the government can move paperwork from one desk to another. Like, that's just crazy. And the problem is that's getting worse and worse every year. So if that trend continues, it's just going to be illegal. We just won't be able to get anything done. So that's why I call it like this extreme overregulation, where there's just new agencies being created every year. And the difficulty of getting anything done is like the square of the number of agencies involved. So if there's one agency, it's like 1, but if there's like 3 agencies, it's like 9 times harder because they all have to meet with each other. We get crazy things like SpaceX got fined $140,000 for dumping potable drinking water on the ground at Starbase where we launched the rocket, because we cool the launch pad with water, And in an excess of caution, we said, we're going to bring in drinking water, just to be sure, and we're going to cool the pad with that. We didn't know there was a permit needed for that. Water falls from the sky all the time. Starbase is in a tropical thunderstorm area. It rains so much that the roads get flooded. Why are we getting fined for a tiny amount of water on the ground? But the EPA said they're not going to process any future applications for launch unless we pay this fine. So we just got, held for ransom, basically. And that's tip of the iceberg. I got a bunch of sort of nutty stories, some of them are, I guess, kind of funny. There's, we had to do this, SpaceX had to do the study to see if Starship would hit a shark. And I'm like, it's a big ocean, there's a lot of sharks. It's not impossible, but it's very unlikely. And said, well, you have to, this is, I think, from National Marine Fisheries, one of the, NIMF, it's called. They were like, well, you have to do the study on whether you're going to hit a shark. We're like, what? And then we said, okay, fine, we'll do the analysis. And then, well, can you give us the shark data? They're like, no, we can't give you the shark data. We're like, okay, well, then we're in a bit of a quandary. How do we solve this this shark probability issue? And they said, well, we could give it to our Western division, but we don't trust them. And I'm like, am I in a comedy sketch here? And they're worried about the shark density data, like the people who hunt sharks for shark fins somehow getting their hands on this shark data. And so eventually, I think we got the data, and we could run the analysis to say, like, yeah, the sharks are going to be fine. But they wouldn't let us proceed with launch until we did this crazy shark data. And then we thought, okay, now we're done. And they said, but what about whales? I'm like, when you look at a picture of the Pacific, what percentage of the surface area of the Pacific do you see as whale?